Astroworld, record 2, side C. We're going to start with Wake Up. Perpetual Excitement. Ooh! Live in the studio. Ooh. I thought they were making mistakes then, but this is the song. Oh. That's good. It's like we got a mic. The mic's recording from the control room, but the guy's playing a room away.
I want you spread out on the sheets. Said pussy so good. Pussy so sweet. I don't wanna wake up. I want it flowing through my streams. Getting me high under my feet. I don't wanna wake up.
That little on the bass drum.
Always on this side of different season. Yeah.
So
Took the bell way down to your hood. Say you was in the crowd. Never look. Looking back, how things came back around. Guess I was hooked. Burn the bread and then we burn the town. We both was good, yeah. Nah, please don't wake me up. Feel like I'm dreaming. I can make your Mondays even better like the weekend. That's my cocoa on my ice cream.
when he mentioned The Weeknd, was that the first vocals on the track? Yeah, vocals by Travis Scott on The Weeknd. I'm starting to understand that when I hear vocals that are as sweet as sunshine.
Won't you spread out on the sheets? Pussy so good.
And then we got the auto-tune.
Pussy so sweet.
Hit a note! And then with the pitch shift. I mean, that shout of yeah is on every Travis Scott track.
You decide if I live or die. When you're close, I'm alive. I can feel the sky.
Ooh, that's a Michael Jackson
I
vibe
just
there.
want your body close to me. Oh. And if I OD, I'll be alone with no heartbeat.
And a liquid bass.
I hold the kills with a ghost and the Lambo. And the doors going up, suicide. I don't wanna wake up. I want you spread out on the sheets.
I don't want to wake up, I want you spread out on the sheets.
Yeah, girl, that pussy's so sweet.
Cause your pussy's so good, cause your pussy's so sweet. Gotta say, my pussy cat, follow me on Instagram. You'll see my pussy cat. He's good, he's sweet.
Oh, under my feet.
And he's always under my feet. Ooh. Ba-dum, bam, bam. Right, we're into track 2. Boom, ba-dum, bam, bam. 5% tint.
Creeping through my window.
Who's that creeping through a window?
Before you come outside, I got the info.
I got the info.
Took her to the end zone from the end zone.
Took her to the end
Know I
zone.
love to smoke, you love to lick more. Wanna hit the jack, then what you call for? All that out your lip shit, that ain't called for.
Boom,
Put that
ba-dum,
drippin'
bam,
on the
bam.
top,
It's like a
start
bossa nova.
All that falling
Ba-dum,
out shit,
bam,
gotta
bam.
give it heart. All that speed and fast shit, we might tell apart. All that copper rush shit, I might clip a sarge. Keep bouncing that ass, you just might get a wart. Yeah, if she bad, she get a pass into the tour. I think through the family, grab the bastards like Janet. Outside, don't panic. Gotta switch, gotta change up transit. Still jump around, move fancy. And I still don't like shit fancy. I think there's someone out there watching me. Who's that creeping through my window? When you come outside, I got the info. Took her to the end zone from the end zone. Know I love to smoke, you love to lick more. Wanna hit the jack, then what you call for? All that out your lip shit, that ain't called for. Me and my bitch, I swear we like the same sex. Bust it down, she talking body language. Eating that pudding, got my
I'll tell you what, all those little sort of shemouns in the background with the shout, very quick. It's hard to explain what I'm on about, but shout, pitch shift down. That's a way of adding little characterful snapshots in the background. Yeah! But just make you think Travis Scott. Like Shimon! Make you think
Don't you come outside, we on that gang shit. Straight up. Had to
Michael
switch my
Jackson.
t-shirt cause she stained it. Oh God. Had to buy a visa, she from Moscow. 21. Fucking around with Travis, you get crossed out. He used
Moscow
be on
to
that
rhyme it with
nigga
crossed
off
out.
now. He off now.
Moscow, crossed out. Crossed out. You crossed out.
Quarter certified by GIA. 21. If it's about my bay, about some smoke, I'm on my way. Yo, bitch gave a Kid Cudi, but I'm not signed to Ye.
Kid Cudi.
Is
Is that a mention of Kid Cudi then? I'll look it up. Maybe he's in it. Hang on.
Fuck with all my chains on, let's have chain sex.
Track 3, NC-17.
Wanna kick with the game, you gotta bang, yeah. If we gon' do my song, gotta swing, holes in the wall, I cannot
I was going to say, oh great, it's assisted by Sean Solomore and Johnny Cash, but it's not, it's Jimmy Cash. Jimmy Cash, fun fact, Jimmy Cash was Johnny Cash's cat. Jimmy Cash. Ooh, this is an understated beat. Ooh,
seem like the life I feel. Seems like the life I feel's a little distant, yeah. Seems like the life I need. Seems like the life I need's a little distant, yeah. Like the remedy, yeah. Sit back while I rock the beat.
I got the poison, I got the remedy.
Yeah. Angels halos over me. I need blessings in my peace. You've been out the streets.
Ooh, this is just like opening a box of Cadbury's milk tray and finding out there's a bloke inside, desperate to jump out the window.
Practice, oh no, never preach. Practice, oh no, never preach. Infiltrate the enemy, moving on them randomly. Feels like the life I need's a little distant, yeah.
This just sounds luxuriant.
Feels like the life I need's a little distant, yeah.
Oh, this is like it could be on the soundtrack to Moonlighting from the 80s. Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis. Oh, everyone wanted to be Bruce Willis back then. If I watched it now, I'd probably think he was a bit of a. Oh. Pitch shifting instruments here. Ooh. Yeah, there's the guitar. John Mayer. This is just beautiful. Oh my god, that was beautiful. More guitar. Guitars by Sheldon Ferguson. Sheldon Ferguson, if you ever watched Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Ferguson was Sheldon's cat. Sheldon Ferguson.
Through the mud, I get a check. You selling run on my best in my chest. Chanel dress, clean up a mess. I eat a flesh.
Yeah.
No rest. Count up a
Yeah.
couple Rolex.
Yeah.
Shine like the sun.
Yeah.
You truly
Yeah.
blessed. You told me
Yeah.
to. You
Yeah.
got Rudy Jets. Kisses on me, got my Gucci shirt wet. Put it in my bag, gon' get used to the rest. I went to school where they teach you finesse. I have issues with a drip, I invest. I'm the boss man, I keep
Nipple invest. I want a nipple invest. couldn't have said that.
Now that I'm home, back up the road, we shut it down, where they sold. Checks on the streets, J number 4, send her on feet, put it on toes. Take it with me, double your dose. Cover with angels, launching my soul. Check out a bed, it's bigger window.
The basketball bass drum is back.
I feel like I'm chosen, I'm covered in gold. I love a wide open, it was off control. Took nothing but fun, man. She hopped and drove.
Hands on my neck, flawless baguette. Hop off a jet, barely get rest. Dash through the mud, I get a check. You selling run on my pants and my chest. Chanel a dress, clean up a mess. I eat a flesh, you know the rest. Turn up 100, couple Rolex. Shine like the sun, you truly blessed.
Ooh. Ooh. Guitars, but cut and chopped. And a little bit of like fairground in the background. Magical Mystery Tour style.
Shawty lick me clean away, she suck me up. I keep
Suck
two in
me
my bed, I
up.
got them turning up. What would you do if you heard I got it going on? I had to burn, I left skirmers, I had to deal. Gotta watch for 12, around my town you might get killed. I'm on my mind, yeah, I'm high by the rim. You copping live, boy, I got it all on film. You gotta watch out with
You can't lie because I've got it all on film. Sex tapes?
What's
it called?
Gotta take a long drive up the hill.
I can't say,
Get too wavy, move like Navy SEAL.
but I live at the top of a hill.
I'm too wavy, think I need to live.
You can't save, I'm mad enough. Smoking hella weed, I'm on that alcohol. The shawty lick me clean away, she sucked me off. Keep 2 hoes in my bed, I got them turning out. What would you do if you had it? I got it burning out. I let it burn, scratch that mark, I had to deal. Better watch for 12, round my time, you might get killed. I'm on my mind, yeah, I'm high for the real.
You copping live, boy, I got it all on
You
film.
must be cautious, told the hoes I'm ballin'. Playing this ball is obvious, I left the girl, she callin'. You know I hit in the morning, oh yeah, she on it. I met you in the club, bitch, you know this shit be nothing. Oh,
Take a vocal around and put her over the top.
No, you can't save, I'm mad enough. Smoking hella weed, I'm on that alcohol. Shawty lick me clean away, she suck me up. I keep 2 hoes in my bed, I got them turning up. What would you do if you heard I got it going on? I had to burn, I left skirmers, I had to deal. Gotta watch for 12, around my town you might get killed. I'm on my mind, yeah, I'm high by the rim. You copping live, boy, I got it all on film.
I've got you on film.
Eyes, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the countdown till I slide. Walking rhymes, how I grew up on my side.
1, 2, 3,
Ain't
4,
no fence,
5.
just 100 acres.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All the people go to heaven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I didn't pay her rent.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All good children go to heaven.
I smacked that ass, she threw it back in self-defense. We took the crib, flood the backyard like it's the beach.
Shoot at intruders, then shoot your producer. If she fuck the gang, get banged, then fuck on the Gucci and groupie. Left eye when she choosing, big bang roll is soothing. Pull up with the
That is tight as a gnat's ass.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the countdown till I
1,
slide.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Walking rhymes, how I grew up on my
1,
side.
2, 3, 4,
Ain't
5.
no fence, just 100 acres.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Get this, we twist up and we get
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
it,
drop it,
jump inside,
yeah.
jump straight to the lake.
Drop
Take a
it,
sip,
drop it.
feel just how I be.
I think he once recorded one, yeah,
Yeah.
and just sticks it on every single track. Why not?
But still ain't nothing changed. You in the
Travis Scott's Yeah is his signature sound.
She caught the waves, just
Like a signature dish. But it's probably... I was going to say it's more creative than a prawn cocktail.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should get that sampled and put it on here.
For this life I
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
cannot change.
Yeah.
Deep off in the main.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't, but I should.
Dogs low creep right behind me in the phantom. Yeah. Never go dip on the set, stay Santana. Yeah. Run it back, turn the lights on when I hit up Green Lantern. Yeah. Fly the bras, fly the dogs down to Atlanta. Yeah. In the cut, in Medusa, lay low, yeah, I might be. Yeah. Roll up, help me calm down when I'm moving high speed. Yeah. If I send one, need to text back, cause you know what I need. Oh, please. Oh, me.
Straight up.
Oh, my. We've been moving,
Straight up.
moving for some time. Flexing,
Straight up.
trying to exercise.
Oh. It's like...
For this life I cannot change. Hitting hills, deep off in the main. Eminem.
I was going to say something, and then Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It was like 100 clone Travis Scotts just all gathering at the microphone. 60s vocal harmony band style.
Yeah.
In unison. 100 of them.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Ooh. Houston Fornication.
I might need me some ventilation, a little vacation. Houston fornication. Mind redefine new renovation. Space cool, back out of the space station.
All the things that rhyme with a vacation, a station, vacation, station, fornication.
I'm supposed to feel safe, 12 live adjacent. Yeah, crib built like a prison where that bitch is gated. Yeah, spending all my time getting faded.
Right, okay, seriously, for you Travis Scott fans, homework here. Is there a Travis Scott song that doesn't have with that pitch shift on it? That sample that he recorded once in 1946 and puts on every single song. That one.
Wedding bands, oh no, that's my neck. I've been living paranoid, watch your step. Ain't never freeing up and never let y'all, man. We always forget, but don't forget easily. Cut my phone off so they can never reach me. Life is just a maze going through my phases. I might need me some ventilation, a little vacation.
I like that low voice.
Mind redefine new
Just drops a lot of the drums out. Just has a just get up close to the mic. A vacation station, PlayStation, vacation, fornication, medication, staycation.
Nobody can check me when it's chest. Not for real. They come in at my neck like Gillette. I'm out to catch, that's the butterfly effect.
Yeah,
I've been locked in
that's a butterfly effect. That's a butterfly effect. That's a butterfly effect.
Had to move up
That's
on
a
my pocket to
butterfly
finesse
effect.
it. Just keep dropping them bombs. You should
Dropping them bombs, dropping them bombs.
They gon' play this still. Why you
Dropping them bombs, dropping them bombs.
in my wheel. They gon'
Dropping them bombs, dropping them bombs.
live it up the hill. We ain't never take the steps. Ain't never freeing up and never let y'all, man. We always forget, but don't forget easily. Cut my phone off so they can never reach me. Life is just a maze going through my phases. I might need me some ventilation, a little vacation. Houston fornication. Mind redefine new renovations. Space cool, back out of the space station. If it rides on the east, land on the west, we gon' make that shit pop, bust it for a check. Call the plays, link the squad, we gon' make it cash.
Yes! Ooh.
Bad, bad news. I'm just bad, bad news. Good thing too, money cloud, money bad news. Bad, bad for you. I get the coffee bean, anything in between. Yeah.
Oh! This groove. A little bit of
Back in the bathroom line.
bit of Fender Rhodes.
How would you feel if I had you?
How would you feel if I
Trust
had
me,
you?
you'll be mad too. Shawty, we can be mad cool.
Oh, it's like
Just
70s.
hit me if anything past due.
If the 1970s had
Told you I'm a bad boy.
auto-tune.
Plus I'm already a black dude. Leaving the bathroom, my hands is half rinsed. If only a nigga just had sense.
This is just low down and
Speaking
dirty.
in past tense. It's been a week and a half since we ain't been speaking in that.
Louder.
You feeling free in my absence? I've been going through a lot behind this glass tent. Yeah.
Down
I
and
know they told you I'll be
dirty.
back for you.
Little bit of
I'll
tremolo.
be back for you. All the money and cars, stripper hoes and the tattoos. Bad news. Back off a coffee bean, reflecting on all these scenes. Stressing over award shows. She's stressing over a wardrobe. Bought the mansion on foreclosed. No matter how many tickets your torso. You feel it's deep in your torso. Feel like someone's reading your horoscope. Some shit
Yes.
only me and the Lord knows. SOS
just
for those
slow
who made it
down and
Lost
dirty.
calls, cul-de-sacs and foreclosed.
Bring on the hot penguin!
Writing over your C's, writing over your D's, sliding over your keys. Alimony and fees. As your lawyer proceeds to give bad, bad news. I'm just bad, bad news.
Oh, I love that unison instrumentation there. We've got guitar by Tim Subi, lead guitar by Mike Dean, and we've got a cello, we've got strings, we've got a bass, we've got all sorts of shit going on here. But they're playing in unison, and normally instrumentation's like this, but when you play it in unison, it has the power of 1,000 suns. The melody hits you right in the sphincter. An unfortunate final word. Astro World hits you right in the sphincter.